tonight's episode, Deep Breath, a story that would usher in a fulfilling yet frustrating era of Doctor Who.
I'm the Doctor. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good.
A big part of Doctor Who for me has always been a balance of the British silliness and the serious sci-fi elements. And I think the opening sequence in this story where the T-Rex vomits up the TARDIS is utilising the inherent British silliness of the show extremely well. I've said many times before that Capaldi is by far my favourite of the new Doctors, and overall is probably only second to Tom Baker. And his first sequence in this episode is incredibly intense. It just pulls you in and captivates you with every line that he delivers.
Have you regenerated? I remember you. Your handles. You used to be a little robot head, and now you really let yourself go.
Going back and watching this episode, it was actually surprising how good the dialogue was at times. Stephen Moffat, in my opinion, has moments of brilliance, which is unfortunately overshadowed by some horribly, woefully written scripts. And this episode is kind of both of those things. It has moments of brilliance, and it has moments of mediocrity, and it has really bad things in it.
Well, put your clothes back on.
They are on.
Yeah, so they are.
Whoever did the sound design for this episode should realise this is not a 1940s slapstick comedy. This sound effect where the Doctor is knocked out by the lizard lady is so out of place and just pulls me out of the immersion completely. I hate it. I hate every moment of it. You might say it's a little nitpick, but it just... fucking hell, man. It's a horrible decision, a horrible choice, and doesn't work for the context and the rest of the tone.
Brace yourself.
I love monkeys, they're so funny.
Clara has this dismay and concern about the Doctor's new form. She's not sure as to what has happened or her feelings towards the Doctor anymore, and she certainly doesn't like the new him or like the fact that he's changed. I really like this element within the show. It creates this unsettlingness at the same time as kind of talking to the audience and saying, hey, it's alright to be on the back foot in these moments and not sure how we feel about the Doctor.
He needs rest.
So what do we do? How do we fix him?
Fix him?
How do we change him back?
We have these three characters that feel left over from the Matt Smith era. There's this servant, this lesbian lizard, and the Sultaran. And this trio are very much the comedic elements of this story. And almost all of the humour feels incredibly forced to me and doesn't work with the rest of the tone. They're kind of setting up an ominous, dark tone, but it just cuts to these three characters and Clara and the shitty humour, which just, one, isn't funny, and two, doesn't match the tone for me.
Can I get you anything?
No thanks. Maybe just some water.
Of course. Oh, don't hold back. I've nearly finished anyway. It's perfectly all right. I washed it myself.
I very much have The Dark Knight Rises feeling from this episode. With that movie, every scene that Heath Ledger wasn't in dragged. And every scene that Peter Capaldi isn't in of this episode just drags, and I just want to end immediately. But then as soon as the Joker or Capaldi is on screen, you're completely captivated and immersed in their performance and their brilliant acting.
They probably want to seed from the rest of my face and set up their own independent state of eyebrows. That's Scot. I am Scottish. I've gone Scottish.
Oh, yes, you are. You are definitely Scotch, sir. I hear it in your voice.
Oh, no, that's good. Oh.
There's this moment where this Tyrannosaurus Rex that the Doctor is mothering and trying to protect and save is incinerated. And at this point in the narrative, it all should have heated up and the tension should have excelled. But instead, immediately after, we get this incredibly silly scene where the Doctor is hanging upside down and stealing a horse. Just... Guardians of the Galaxy is a good example of meshing comedy and a serious sci-fi tone together. But this episode is just really, really jarring. Feels like these two complete opposite elements that just don't gel well together at all. The stupid, silly slapstick and the serious sci-fi where they just feel next to each other, just not merging, not meshing, just it's horrible. It pulls you in and pushes you out. It pulls you in and pushes you out. Is this supposed to be funny? Because all it does is leave me puzzled.
The doctor? What's he doing here?
There's trouble. Where else would he be?
Carriage has central locking. You get it? It's turn of the century London, but the carriage has central locking. It's really funny. Another moment, another joke Stephen Moffat thought was funny. The Soltaran guy throws a paper at Clara and it hits her in the head. Huh.
The Times. Shall I set it up?
Yeah, why not?
Huh. Funny. Well, at least they didn't add a stupid slapstick sound sample in to just make it completely Charlie Chaplin. That's one thing that they didn't do, I guess. If you're looking for a positive. Tennant, Smith, Baker, Troughton, they all had these dark elements within them, and every good doctor does. But Peter Capaldi's attack eyebrows turn this darkness from an undertone to an overtone. There's this incredibly brilliant scene in this alleyway where he's dialoguing with this hobo. It's the best scene in the episode by far, and it really showcases how this doctor is tonally different from Smith. He inquires as to who he is and what his meaning is and why he's here, and his acting is brilliant and the dialogue is really well written. Like I said, Stephen Moffat has his moments of brilliance. And then it all ends with the doctor confronting the hobo and asking for his clothing. And we don't see what happens. We see in the next sequence that Capaldi is wearing his clothing. And it's just left like ambiguous. We don't know how violent it got or how forcibly aggressive the doctor was to take the clothing from the hobo. Or if he just traded his watch for his clothes. It's all left up in the air. But either way, this dark turn down this alleyway of violentness for the doctor is great and a brilliant turn.
Give me your coat.
No,
I am cold.
I'm cold.
I'm cold. There's no point in us both being cold. Give me a coat.
A lot of people hate Clara, and to be honest, I've never seen the season where she's introduced. Season previous to this, season 7. I've seen a couple episodes from it, but I've never sat down and watched all of it. I always found it really hard to get through the Matt Smith era. I like Matt Smith. He has a lot of charisma and he is a great actor. But, oh god, the writing was just woeful, especially the season arcs. By the time it got to the conclusions of each season, I'm just like, what the fuck is even going on? So I think a lot of the hate for her stems from her introduction in that season. She's tied into the Doctor's mythology a lot, but I never watched it, so I don't know. I never hated Clara. She was always okay in my mind. And I think she actually has a lot of charisma and chemistry with Capaldi.
And that isn't the only grey one if you are having a cold.
What, do you have a problem with the grey ones?
Oh, if mine got new hair and it was grey, I would have a problem.
Yeah, I bet you would.
Meaning?
This story does try to take itself more seriously in the third act. There's these organ harvesting androids that were set up in the Girl in the Fireplace, who are a great antagonist and actually have a lot of tension and suspense around the concept of them and how they function and the world building of their characters.
Brainstem, eyes.
Is there a lot of demand for those?
I don't think that's what's on the menu. I think we are the menu.
The CGI utilised to realise the effects for this Borg-esque enemy are completely seamless. It looks great. I love their turn of the century aesthetic. It's like the old English gentlemen that are actually these Borg-esque cyborg creatures. It's great and has these slight horror elements to it.
You know what's in a dinosaur's optic nerve, which means you've seen them before.
Where is the other one?
The third act of the story is fine. It has some interesting and somewhat exciting moments, but I was never under the impression that the Doctor or Clara were in any danger. It seems to substitute tension and suspense for fun action sequences, which isn't what I enjoy personally, but I guess a lot of people could say, hey, it was fine, it was fun. It's just not really the type of conclusion or engagement or conflict that I enjoy.
Remain still and lay down your weapons in the name of the British Empire! Strax!
This giant hot air balloon made out of human skin is a very typical Moffat story element. It's not a bad concept, but when you think about it logistically for more than 1 second, it makes absolutely no sense. I mean, the balloon is massive. It's holding up a restaurant. It just doesn't make sense when you consider basic physics. And the fact that it's made out of human skin brings even more questions to the fold. It just, I guess if you turn your brain off and watch it, it's fine. That's not really why I'm here. I don't watch Star Trek or Doctor Who just to turn my brain off and have a fun time. I want engaging and intellectual sci-fi concepts, not silly hot air balloons that make no fucking sense. Oh fuck yeah! Lesbian lizard love sequence!
Store oxygen in my lungs. Share with me.
Moffat introduces this great question of whether the Doctor pushed this lead android out of the hot air balloon and murdered him, or whether the lead android committed suicide. It also brings into question the larger idea of who is the Doctor now? How violent is he? How dark is he? How ominous is he? How much of the old Doctor remains in him, and how much different, dark, ominous elements now take over his personality. Unfortunately, ultimately this idea is dropped and it's never answered. And then by Capaldi's second season, he just reverts and backtracks to more Doctor-esque elements that we're all familiar with, and less of the really dark Hartnell elements that we come to see in this season, which is unfortunate because I would like that to be explored more. I like to see the Doctor boot up heroin and kill children.
Self-destruction is against my basic program.
Murder is against mine.
Matt Smith appears in this episode for some reason, and it just does not work for me at all, eh? It's a new era, it's a new time, and we're trying to get to know our new Doctor and move on into the future, and we're just pulled back into the past. Hey you guys, remember Matt Smith? This is still Doctor Who. That's that Doctor that everyone loved. Fuck, just let us move on. Maybe we don't like Capaldi so far, but that's fine. We can't dwell in the past. We've got to move into the future. The show has always been about regenerating itself.
I'm phoning you from Trenzalore.
We then get the setup for Missy, what would ultimately become another disappointing story arc for the Moffat era.
Boy, friend.
Now, did he push you out of that thing? Or did you fall? Couldn't really tell.
In conclusion, this story is a mixed bag, much like all of the Capaldi era. The 12th Doctor is amazing. I love Capaldi. I love his acting. I love his intensity. I love his facial expressions. He's just the best Doctor in this era of Doctor Who for me. Absolutely, hands down. But this story suffers from mediocrity, like a lot of Capaldi stories. And there's some really bad slapstick comedy in here, which only a 10-year-old would find funny, which is arguably the target audience for the show. This is a kids show. It's not for adults. Why are you ripping this apart? Star Wars is for kids. Well, maybe. Maybe Star Wars is for kids. Maybe Doctor Who is for kids. But I feel like there's a happy balance and a middle ground where a whole family can sit down, from 10-year-olds to 5-year-olds to 30-year-olds, and watch Doctor Who and enjoy it. And these slapstick moments don't feel like they work for anybody. I mean, maybe a 10-year-old, maybe for someone living in the 1940s who's a fan of Charlie Chaplin and fucking Albert and Costello. Anyway, in conclusion, Capaldi's great. The episode's alright. Thank you for watching, and it really help out if you guys could like, subscribe, and in the comments tell me how all my facts are wrong and how my opinion is void. Thank you. Good night.